Hello everyone, welcome back to Dark Night Tales. Before we dive in, please show your support, give this video a like and be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss future videos. So let's get started.
The first story. My cat of 15 years went missing a couple years ago. Had a comforting dream about him last night. The day my cat, who I spent more than half of my existence with, went missing was incredibly devastating, as one would imagine. Losing him was like losing a lifelong friend. I'm sure many of you can relate. The hard part was that he never came home. The unknown was what was so heartbreaking, but like with everything, time heals all wounds. He left me on May 4, 2020. Just last week he finally visited me in a dream. I was in a beautiful home that felt like my own and he was there, sitting in a cat tree, one that I always wish I had gotten for him. He looked at me so calmly, slowly blinking the way cats lovingly do. I felt like he was trying to communicate with me that he is in a good place, patiently waiting for me to return to him. Love you, T. The second story. Horrible screaming that froze me in terror. So I'm going to try to tell the entire story of my experience. I've posted it once before in another community but with very little detail. I am stargazing with my wife and we are both in a state of extreme unease. We both look at each other and say something isn't right here. I'm looking into the pines looking for the reason of our fear and I see this orange cat sitting on a stump. The way it looked at me scared me but I didn't really focus much on the cat. Suddenly through the trees we hear this screaming, "Help me please. Anyone out here?" It sounded like a little girl at first, then it sounded like a grown woman. Somebody fucking help me. It cut through my body. I have never been that fearful in my entire life. I was completely terrified. My wife yells out, "Where are you? You're not alone." No reply. We get into our Pathfinder, roll the windows down and have spotlights out each side searching for this woman. A couple more screams let out into the still night. She sounds like she is within 10 feet but there is no one around. We yell out to try to let her know we're there but never get a reply. A scream so loud it leaves my eardrums ringing, "Somebody please fucking help me." Like she screamed directly into the car. No one is anywhere. This scream was different because it sounded fearful, but also with anger. It really hurt my ears. That was the last one. We kept searching but not another peep. Her voice was not natural. How to even explain it? I am haunted by this experience and am just looking for answers on what that was. I get chills so hard when I talk about this, it almost makes me teary-eyed. This is probably completely unrelated, but in the same stretch of woods the day before I was hiking and came across an owl. I thought it was a decoy like a prop or something until it turned its head around and it gazed deep into me and I froze. I wasn't exactly fearful but it had a weird effect on me. Its eyes were orange. Bright, almost glowing. We locked eyes for what seemed like minutes, then it flew off without a sound. The third story. One of my patients comes to give me a final goodbye. Hello everyone, my name is Alyssa. I'm 36 years old. I'm a trauma surgeon at a hospital in Massachusetts. About a month ago we had a young 18-year-old girl come in after a car accident. She had bad internal injuries and bleeding. She also had a severe head injury. We operated for about 8 hours that first night to fix her internal injuries and get her stable. We also put a drain in her head to reduce swelling. She was on life support for about 2 weeks and during that time I got quite close to her family. I will say from some of the pictures her family showed me she was a pretty girl with long blonde hair and blue eyes. We did a couple more surgeries to try and save her but it was no use. She was declared brain dead and taken off life support. I took it hard and over the last few weeks it's been bothering me. I know I can save everyone but this one really hurt. The night before last I had gotten off work late and I had just walked in the door. My wife was already asleep. I hung my keys up on the key rack and as I was doing that I heard what sounded like a female voice whisper my name. I knew my wife was already asleep so I just stood there and listened. I heard it again and I walked into the kitchen where the sound was coming from. Then I saw her. It was the girl just standing there smiling at me. I was just standing there in shock when she spoke to me and said, "I'm okay now, you did all you could." Then she disappeared. I'm still in shock thinking about this experience. You guys tell me what you think in the comments. The fourth story. My grandpa came to me in a dream, giving me a heads up grandma would be passing away. Let me start by saying, I've had multiple visitation dreams. Usually they are shortly after the person had passed, and we're saying goodbye. This dream/visitation was one that really stuck with me though. It was 2019, July 2nd to be exact. My grandpa had been passed for 15 years by then. My grandma had been in and out of the hospital for a couple months. She was fighting pneumonia for a while and then she started having some stomach issues and went back in. Well, that day not much news had changed with her. She was still okay, wasn't any sort of extreme decline. Well, that night I had this dream. I remember my grandpa was in some room with me, and I said, "Grandpa, what are you doing here? You've been gone so long now." Note, I never did dream of Grandpa after he passed. He smiled and said, "I know, I'm here to take Grandma home now." I remember feeling happy. I wasn't sad, I was excited because Grandma was going to see Grandpa. I woke up and told my dream to my husband. A little bit afterwards, I got a text from my cousin. She said Grandma was not doing good and her outcome looks bleak. Then she said they were taking her home to make her comfy. I was totally baffled. I knew she wasn't doing good, but it was definitely a surprise. On July 4th, my grandma took her last breath. The same day her dad died. She never met him, he died before she was born. I've had plenty of other weird, crazy and what I feel has been paranormal experiences. I hope this one counts though. Not necessarily scary, more of a positive paranormal story. If anyone else has experiences like this, I would absolutely love to hear them. The fifth story. The ghost encounter that made me believe. I am a heavy skeptic. I don't believe orbs are real, nor do I search for vague faces in photos or think cemeteries are scary. I chalk most anything up to some logical explanation. The house settling or the wind. At one point I didn't believe in the paranormal at all. I would like to share the experience that changed my mind entirely, as even to this day it blows my mind that this happened to me and I thought it would be interesting to share. This happened about a decade ago. I was 18 at the time. I was dating a boy for about a month, we'll call him B. B was also completely dismissive of the idea that ghosts are real. Even more dismissive than I was. He thought the idea of religion, spirits, aliens, etc. were all bizarre fantasies. About a month into our relationship he decided it was time I met his parents. I, being a gothic teen, was extremely nervous but I reluctantly agreed. He picked me up and drove us to his apartment to meet them. Upon walking through the front door, his mother sat on the couch with her two dogs, Chihuahuas, one brown and one black, to the left of me, and his father stood in the kitchen entryway to the right of me. He introduced me and we made pleasant small talk. I was so focused on the conversation and my nerves that I hardly noticed the dogs barking until his mother yelled quiet to stop them. We chatted for about 20 minutes then headed out for our weekend plans. About a week later he invited me over again. His parents weren't home and upon arriving I noticed only one dog was there. The dog was less timid this time so I bent down to pet her. B told me her name and a bit of her history, how they adopted her, etc. I then asked him about the black dog and he got a puzzled look on his face. B: What black dog? Me: The one that was here last time? It looks just like this one only it's black. B: Belle was the only dog here. He looked at me in pure disbelief and told me they'd had a dog just like that but it died a few months ago. I told him the dog had a white stripe down its chest and a blue collar with a bow on it and his jaw hit the floor. He led me down the hallway and showed me a photo on the wall of the two dogs together and my description perfectly matched it. A photo that could not be seen from the front door where I had stood during my entire last visit. We tried for a solid hour to make this make sense. I couldn't have gotten every single detail right, down to the collar. It wasn't something seen from the corner of my eye. I stared right at this dog for 20 solid minutes. It was hardly 5 feet away from me, coming up occasionally to sniff my shoes and barking as any dog would at a newcomer. I undoubtedly saw this dog. To this day I can see the scene in my mind very clearly. I don't have any history of mental illness or hallucinations. I've never experienced anything like this. There was nothing strange about its appearance. It wasn't clear or floating or any of that. It looked just like any dog. Except, somehow, it wasn't there and nobody saw it but me. During our relationship we would often recall that experience and how strange it was. 10 years later and I still rack my brain trying to make it make sense. It just doesn't. Have any of you ever seen ghost animals? Or had an experience like this? I have questioned my sanity for a decade because of this experience. The sixth story. What the hell did we witness? Well, I never expected to be posting on this sub but here we are. First of all, sorry in advance for any grammatical errors I might make, not native English. All what I'm about to say is the pure truth and to be honest I don't think it is registered in my head yet. My kid wanted to call his grandpa, video call, so he did. The convo is going well when someone sit right next to my father-in-law, right next to him. We just think that it is my sis-in-law, can't see her face, but my kid gets excited and try to say hello. My father-in-law was telling me something important, so I asked my son to give it a SCD, when Grandpa stops in his tracks and asked who. What do you mean? So my son asks Auntie, I'm home alone, then proceeds to show my son the empty living room. Well, my kid looks at me puzzled, muttering, Mommy, you seen it too? But I'm thinking maybe there's someone at their house, also trying not to scare my child. I tell my husband and ask him to give him a call and to confirm that nobody's at the house. Mother-in-law is out of town and my father-in-law is home alone. I've seen this person clear as the day, and so did my kid. So what did we see? No, really scared right now, but this person looked so real, I'm a bit baffled. The 7th story. My dead best friend's stuff keeps breaking and I'm not sure if it's a sign of something. DW, suicide and bullying. Okay, so my friend died just over 2 years ago now, suicide by hanging. She was being bullied really badly at school, name calling, stuff thrown at her, people saying that we're going to / trying to fight her, videos and pictures posted on social media making fun of her, and the list goes on, and that's why people believe she did it. After her death, her mom locked her room up and nobody went in, but after a few months her mom found the strength to go into her room. Her mom then got a wall put up over her closet and neatened up her room a bit. Then about 7 months later, so around a year after her death, her gymnastics plaques and trophies started falling from shelf and off the walls, and her siblings and mother's stuff started moving around. No damage to the items. They all just took this as their daughter/sister just saying hi, and there was no problems. Things like jewelry that belonged or was given by her, picture frames with her and F started breaking. I have a photo frame with her handprint in it and the glass on it broke earlier today. I feel like she is trying to tell us something, but I don't know what. If she is trying to tell us something, someone please tell me what it is. Thank you to anyone who reads this, and an even bigger thank you if you can help me figure out what is going on. The 8th story. Haunted mirror in rental house. This happened 6 months ago in a house I moved into with a roommate. She had lived there for a year prior, and once I moved in we started rearranging the living room. I need to note that there were old bedroom sets in the basement from the original owners of the house, bed frames, dressers and mirrors. Back to the living room, there was a mirror on the wall opposite the fireplace with a mirror above the mantel. The mirror opposite the fireplace came from the basement and was hung up by the girl that lived there before I moved in. So I take the mirror off the wall as we are putting our TV in that spot and prop it up against the wall perpendicular to the wall it was hung until we can figure out where to put it. This is when we started to notice the weird things happening and hadn't quite realized the mirror could be the issue. There is a cot in the basement that was set up apparently by the owner of the house if he ever came to town. Weird in my opinion, but whatever. Well, the lights above the cot randomly stopped working and that corner of the basement just started having an eerie vibe. I tell my roommate this and we go down to investigate. What we found scared the shit out of us. Bare footprints on the cot seemingly pacing back and forth side to side. No one in their right mind would walk barefoot down there as it's sturdy and there's been rats. We measured our feet next to the prints and while roughly the same length they were way too wide to be either of ours. A couple days later I am down in the basement doing laundry. I make my dog come down there with me because it's so creepy. He wouldn't stop staring at the corner containing the cot and I felt I was being watched. A moment later the lights above the washer and dryer started flickering, so I got the hell out of there. The same day later in the afternoon I'm standing in the living room on the phone with my brother talking about work with my back to the mirror propped against the floor. My dog starts growling and aggressive barking. My initial thought was both mine and my roommate's dog were behind me fighting over a toy, so I snapped at them to stop, and when I turned around it was just my dog staring into the mirror, but not looking at his reflection. He's 5 years old and has seen his reflection thousands of times. It doesn't concern him, so that freaked me out and is when I started connecting dots. I had a betta fish in a tank on one side of the mirror and my roommate had a cool palm tree-like plant on the other side. My fish died suddenly and the plant wasn't doing well no matter her efforts. I have to note I had been telling my roommate that the mirror seemed warped because I felt I looked horrible and fat when I saw myself in it walking into the room. She apparently had also noticed this. So I bring up my mirror theory to her and she immediately grabs the mirror and puts it in our detached garage on the backyard. We both felt better about this until the next day. I went out back to smoke and it was raining, so I opened the garage door for some shelter. A fluorescent bulb was on the floor in the middle of the garage as though it had fallen. But it was not on a place it would have seemingly landed and completely unbroken. It's like someone laid it there. I look up, see the mirror facing me and GTFO. I explain this to my roommate and we immediately grab the mirror to walk it across the street to Goodwill. Super convenient in this moment. She's holding it by the wire it hung on for years, and the moment we reach the edge of the property the wire snaps and the mirror fell to the ground without breaking. This thing did not want to leave. We get it across the street and leave it. The next day the lights in the basement started working and we had no other weird experiences. I'm sorry if my writing is terrible, it was just so many creepy indicators in such a short amount of time it's hard to put it all together. I'm including pictures in the comments of the mirror, footprints and of the fluorescent bulb that fell. Let me know if you guys have any questions and or theories on this one. I've never had any experiences like this. The 9th story. The scariest ghost experience I had in Bali Island. So in the summer of 2018, a group of friends of mine invited me to a trip to Bali, Indonesia. It ended up being a trip of 6 women and 6 men, and I knew around half of the people beforehand and I got to know the rest during the trip. We went around the island, ate great food, enjoyed the views and culture, and we were all in our early to mid-20s back then, so we would always end the night with a night out at the bar/nightclub. I believe it was the 3rd night in the island. After the night out, we were in groups of 4 or 5. We got a cab and headed back to our villa separately due to us not all fitting in one vehicle. I was one of the people that arrived in the villa latest, and I believe it was approximately around 2 a.m. when I arrived. My roommate and some friends decided that they were going to bed first, but I wanted to have a cigarette prior to getting ready to pass out in my room. Before going further to the story, in order to make this story more clear to whoever is reading, I need to tell you about the layout of the villa. The villa's estate is rectangular, and when you enter you'll see an outdoor kitchen and somewhat of a living room that's outdoor, including few couches and a TV and a statue of Buddha. Yeah, weird. Then there is a pool which next to it has 6 glass doors that lead into 6 different rooms, so you could open your room door and take 4 steps to dive in the pool. Now the real story starts, from the deciding to having a cigarette part. For the record, I was not too intoxicated nor too tipsy at this moment. I decided to light up a cigarette in front of my room door, and I was looking around the ambient view of the pool and living room space. Living room space was darker than the pool. Then I saw a shape of a girl sitting in the couch, but she was looking the opposite direction of me. Thus I was looking at the back of her head. At this point, I didn't think of anything weird and thought it was one of the girls that stayed in the villa with me. Then I got a chill all over my body because I did not recognize her hair with any of the girls that was in the villa. In this moment, for some stupid reason, I decided not to freak out, and I felt like I wanted to show I wasn't scared of this random girl/ghost/spirit. Was not sure if this was a ghost/a random girl that broke in, and I decided to finish smoking the rest of the cigarette, and I threw it approximately 5 foot next to her direction when I was done. Bad decisions. Then I opened my room door and saw my roommate already asleep. For some reason I was able to fall asleep quite shortly. I don't usually get sleep paralysis, maybe once prior to this trip. I fell asleep in a position where my face was half in the pillow and half out an angle that I could see my roommate, then woke up and I could not move my body. The first sense was my sight, then I realized I could not move, then realized I felt something on my cheeks. It was a black straight hair on my cheeks and I only could move my eyeballs. This was the most chills and panic that I ever felt in my life as I tried to see what it was by sideballing my eyes as much as I could. Then I saw a face that was also sideballing to stare at me. I was dying inside, my heart was beating like crazy, and I think that this girl/ghost also knew that I was pissing my pants. Then the killer act was she almost screamed her laugh with her mouth directly in my ears, like ha 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 ha, rapidly with the highest pitch of laugh I've heard. I didn't know what to do, but it was like my body was in a flight or fight mode. I somehow managed to ball my fist, then the rest of my body woke up. Then I was screaming what the F, and woke up my roommate and some people in the villa. There was nothing that was on top of me when I woke up. I didn't get much more sleep that night. People didn't believe what happened to me until we checked out of the villa 2 days later, and I told this story to the security guard that was in charge of a few villas around the block. He told me that across the villa, approximately a 2-way road, it had a so-called kuburan, which translate to graveyard for the locals there. Not sure if it was that, or if I was just hallucinating for some reason. It's a story I still tell people and freak out over. Sorry that I had to write this long. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if any of you guys had any similar experience. The 10th story. Saw the previous owner of my parents' house. My parents bought this really nice semi-retirement house, 2 siblings still in school and my retired parent still does some work, around a year ago. It wasn't kept a secret that the owner had died. We presume in the house BC he was elderly, and it's actually quite sad as he built the house hoping his kids would come back to visit and the neighbors only ever saw him. For context, I live with my parents. For months my bathroom/closet light randomly will switch on and off, my sink will turn on, And I have heard a man laughing. A few days ago I was working from home in the kitchen and out of the corner of my eye saw a man walk from my left and behind me. I saw him long enough that I could make out it was an older man who was dressed as you would be in your own home. I thought it was my dad. The way he was walking he should have immediately appeared to my right. When I turned right there was no one. I whipped my head around multiple times trying to see someone. I went to my mom and relayed what I saw, hoping she would tell me I was being silly. No one else in my family has been bothered by ghostly events. She just said your dad isn't home. Thank you, Mom. I've had ghost encounters before but this one hasn't freaked me out, just kind of cool. I hope he's just happy that there are kids here and he's just saying hi. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share and we will see you in the next video.